A 2,000-year-old machine predicted eclipses, modeled the moon's changing speed, and then disappeared so completely that history seemed to forget how to build anything like it, until medieval clockmakers started doing it again. The Antikythera mechanism contained at least 30 surviving bronze gears. One dial coordinated a 19-year calendar cycle. Another organized eclipse predictions through a cycle lasting more than 2 centuries. Its moon mechanism even changed speed during rotation. That much is real. The mystery begins with what comes next. Because roughly 1,000 years later, Europe produced astronomical clocks with dozens, then more than 100 gears. And near the end of this story, one Italian machine will confront the exact same mechanical problem Antikythera solved 14 centuries earlier. But the most important clue does not come from that clock. It comes from a much smaller object that could fit in your hands. The Antikythera mechanism was recovered from a Roman-era shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1900. Divers brought up statues, pottery, glass, and corroded bronze objects from a wreck that had sunk in the 1st century before the Common Era. For nearly 2 years, one greenish lump of metal attracted little attention. Then, in May 1902, Greek politician and archaeologist Spyridon Stais noticed something inside it, a gear. That changed everything. The mechanism itself had been built around the end of the 2nd century before the Common Era. Only about 1/3 survives today, divided into 82 fragments. 30 bronze gears can still be identified. The largest surviving gear measures more than 13 centimeters across. Some inscriptions are only a few millimeters high. The complete machine probably sat inside a wooden case roughly the size of a small suitcase. Turn one input, and several displays moved together. On the back were 2 large spiral dials. One tracked the Metonic cycle, 235 lunar months, fitting almost exactly into 19 solar years. Another used the Saros cycle, 223 lunar months, about 18 years, to organize eclipse predictions. That already makes Antikythera extraordinary. But the moon mechanism is where the machine stops looking like a sophisticated calendar and starts looking almost impossible for its age. The moon does not appear to cross the sky at a constant speed. It speeds up. It slows down. The mechanism reproduced that variation using a pin and slot system mounted on rotating gears. The maker had taken a mathematical model of irregular celestial motion and turned it into moving bronze. And that is the first small loop we can close. Antikythera was not simply displaying astronomical information, it was calculating motion. In 2005, Tony Freeth and the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project used high-resolution X-ray computed tomography to see through layers of corrosion that earlier researchers could not read. Hidden inscriptions emerged. So did new gear relationships. The scans strengthened the interpretation of the rear eclipse system and revealed evidence that the missing front display involved the sun, moon, and the 5 planets known in antiquity. But the X-rays also exposed a bigger problem. We could finally see more of the machine. We still could not see its history. No inscription names the workshop, no surviving record identifies the patron, and no archaeological site has produced another complete mechanism of equal complexity from the same period. That absence made Antikythera look like a technological miracle with no ancestors and no descendants. For decades, that interpretation seemed almost unavoidable. Then a reconstruction that looked convincing began to fail. Derek de Sola Price spent years studying the mechanism and published Gears from the Greeks in 1974. Working with physicists Charalambos Karakalos and Karakalos' wife, Emilia, Price used X-rays and gamma radiography to peer inside the fragments. His work was foundational. He established that the object was a Sirius geared astronomical calculator. But his reconstruction was not the final answer. Michael Wright, then a curator at the Science Museum in London, began comparing Price's proposed gear layout with the physical evidence. Some placements did not fit. Parts of the rear system were misunderstood. Certain mechanical relationships simply did not behave as Price had proposed. The perfect solution started to crack, and this is where the Antikythera story becomes more useful than the myth around it. Science did not weaken the machine. science weakened our confidence that we had already solved it. Wright later worked with Australian computer scientist Alan Bromley and developed new ways to image the fragments. Their work helped reveal that the mechanism was more sophisticated than the earlier reconstruction allowed. But while researchers were still arguing over ancient Greek gears, another object was already sitting in London. It had arrived from Lebanon, and it should not have existed. In 1983, the Science Museum acquired 4 fragments of a late antique instrument. They did not come from a controlled archaeological excavation. A donor had acquired them in Lebanon. That means the location, layer, and surrounding objects that might have explained the instrument were lost. But Michael Wright and historian of mathematics Judith Field examined the pieces and identified a portable Byzantine sundial calendar dating roughly to the late 5th or early 6th century. That places it around 500 years after Antikythera, and around 700 years before Europe's famous astronomical clocks. The object survives in only a handful of parts: a sundial plate, a suspension arm, a moon disk carrying a gear, an arbor with a ratchet, and 2 additional toothed wheels. In total, only 4 gears and a ratchet survive. That sounds like almost nothing, until you look at what they did. The front plate carries 16 place names in Greek, including Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, Rhodes, Athens, Rome, Palestine, and Ascalon. Those names allowed the user to adjust the sundial for different latitudes. The geared part showed the moon's age and approximate phase. It probably also indicated the positions of the sun and moon in the zodiac, and the entire instrument was only about 13.5 centimeters across. Not a tower, not a royal monument, a portable device. Field and Wright argued that its workmanship was relatively plain, and that it may have been intended for an educated, practical user rather than an elite court. That changes the missing link question. If geared astronomy survived only in one extraordinary masterpiece, continuity would remain difficult to argue. But if a modest portable instrument could combine a sundial, calendar, lunar phase display, and gears, then mechanical astronomy may have survived as a working craft. Not at Antikythera's complexity, but alive. This is the first major reward in the story. The 1,000-year silence is already broken. If you enjoy documentaries that separate what the evidence proves from what we wish it proved, subscribe now. Because the next clue is stranger. The machine disappears again, but the design survives on paper. Around the year 1000, the scholar al-Biruni described a geared calendrical instrument, often called the box of the moon. Al-Biruni was born in 973 and wrote on astronomy, mathematics, geography, chronology, and scientific instruments. His mechanical calendar used 8 gears. Those gears coordinated the relative revolutions of the sun and moon and represented the changing lunar phase. 8 gears are far fewer than Antikythera's surviving 30. But the number is not the important part. The important part is the logic. Astronomical cycles became gear ratios. One motion drove several displays. The sky was turned into mechanical relationships, and now the chain has changed form. Antikythera survives as damaged metal. The Byzantine instrument survives as fragments. Al-Biruni's machine survives mainly as description. That tells us something uncomfortable about technological history. A tradition does not need to leave intact machines behind. It can survive as instructions. A workshop can disappear while its ratios remain. A device can be melted down while its construction method is copied, and a design can cross a century without a single original wheel surviving. But there is still a weakness. A description proves someone knew the idea. It does not prove they built it repeatedly. So the next object matters more, because this one still exists as a complete geared machine. In 1221 or 1222, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr made a brass astrolabe in Isfahan. Today it is held by Oxford's History of Science Museum. From the front, it is an astrolabe. Turn it over, and the story changes. Inside the unusually thick body is a hidden gear train. A circular window shows the phase of the moon. A smaller rectangular display shows the moon's age within the lunar month. Below them, Two rotating rings show the relative positions of the sun and moon against the zodiac. The museum describes it as the oldest complete geared machine known to survive. And its inscription contains a phrase that could almost be a manifesto for astronomical clockmaking. Different motions arise through a single mover, one driving action, several coordinated outputs, a mechanical cosmos. This does not connect Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr directly to Antikythera. There is no surviving note saying he copied a Greek mechanism, but it proves something that the supposed thousand-year gap made difficult to imagine. By the early 13th century, complete geared astronomical machines were being built in the Islamic world, and now we are only about a century away from Europe's great astronomical clocks. Before we cross that final gap, make your prediction. Which explanation sounds most likely? A. Europe reinvented astronomical gearing independently. B. The tradition moved west through texts, instruments, translation, trade, and scholarship. C. Both happened, with inherited principles transformed by new engineering. Pick one now. Then compare your answer with what the European machines actually show. The first major European clue comes from Richard of Wallingford. Born around 1292, Wallingford became abbot of St. Albans in England and designed an ambitious astronomical clock in the early 14th century. The original machine is lost, but the surviving descriptions show that it was much more than an hour counter. It included astronomical calculations and displays. That overturns a common assumption about the history of clocks. We often imagine that clocks began as simple machines for telling time and later became astronomical. But the early monumental tradition suggests the opposite possibility. Astronomy may have been central from the beginning. The clock did not necessarily acquire the heavens later. The heavens may have helped create the clock. And that idea becomes much harder to dismiss when we reach Giovanni da Dondi. Dondi was born in 1330 in Chioggia, near Venice. He was a physician, astronomer, engineer, and professor. He spent roughly 16 years developing a machine known as the astrarium. The original is lost, but unlike Antikythera, Dondi left detailed construction instructions in the Tractatus Astrari. This gives us one of the most satisfying reversals in the whole story. Antikythera preserved the machine but lost the manual. Dondi lost the machine but preserved the manual, and the manual describes approximately 107 gears. The astrarium displayed the moon, the 5 visible planets, calendrical information, and the ascending lunar node. In terms of documented mechanical complexity, it surpassed Antikythera. But the biggest reveal is not the gear count. It is the shape of some of the gears. Dondi used non-circular wheels. A circular gear transmits motion at a regular relationship. A non-circular gear changes that relationship as it turns. Dondi used this effect to reproduce the apparent irregular motion of the moon and Mercury within medieval Ptolemaic astronomy. Now return to Antikythera. 14 centuries earlier, its maker confronted the same broad problem. The moon does not appear to move uniformly. Antikythera used a pin and slot mechanism. Dondi used different geometry. The solutions are not identical. The problem is, and that is more interesting than a copied blueprint, because technological continuity does not always preserve the same part. Sometimes it preserves the same question. How do you force metal to imitate a sky that changes speed? Antikythera answered with one mechanism. Dondi answered with another. This is where the missing link theory becomes tempting. Perhaps the central tradition survived. Perhaps astronomical gearing passed from Greek and Byzantine contexts into Islamic instrument making and eventually into European clockwork. The sequence is attractive. But here the evidence forces us to slow down. There is no document saying Dondi saw an Antikythera-type machine. There is no workshop ledger connecting a Byzantine craftsman to Al-Biruni, Al-Biruni to Isfahan, and Isfahan to northern Italy. The similarities are real. The direct chain is not proven. That distinction matters, and it gives us the second major scientific reversal. The evidence is strong enough to destroy the idea of a completely empty millennium. It is not strong enough to give us one continuous family tree. The most defensible model is not a straight line. It is a network, machines, texts, astronomical tables, craft traditions, translation, trade, independent invention, reinvention based on inherited principles. All of them can carry pieces of the same idea without preserving one perfect blueprint. There is a smaller clue hidden in the gear teeth themselves. Antikythera's bronze gears used hand-cut triangular teeth. Medieval astronomical mechanisms also commonly use triangular teeth. That does not prove direct transmission. Triangular teeth are simple to make and could be reinvented independently, but it weakens the visual myth that ancient Greek gearing and medieval gearing belong to completely separate technological worlds. Different cultures, different languages, different scientific models. Yet craftsmen kept cutting teeth around metal wheels and using them to represent the sky. Now, one last problem remains. We are comparing later astronomical machines with an ancient mechanism whose missing front is still disputed. In 2021, Tony Freeth and colleagues published a reconstruction proposing a complete ancient Greek cosmos on the front face, including the 5 visible planets. The model used surviving inscriptions and reconstructed planetary period relations. It is impressive. It is also not universally accepted. Too little of the original front gearing survives. Other interpretations favor a more limited lunisolar arrangement, and this disagreement matters to the entire missing link story. If Antikythera displayed all 5 planets, its conceptual resemblance to Dante's Astrarium becomes much stronger. If the front focused mainly on the sun, moon, calendar, and eclipse-related information, the Byzantine sundial and the Isfahan astrolabe become closer parallels. So even the ancient starting point is still moving beneath our feet. The more confidently we connect Antikythera to later planetary clocks, the more we rely on gearing that no longer exists. That is the final loop. The title asks whether Antikythera's missing link was found in medieval clockwork, not as one machine. Antikythera gives us the ancient masterpiece. The Byzantine sundial shows geared calendrical astronomy surviving around the 6th century. Al-Biruni preserves an 8-gear design around the year 1000. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr gives us a complete geared astronomical instrument from 1221 or 1222. Richard of Wallingford shows astronomical clock design emerging in 14th century England, and Giovanni dei Dondi documents a mechanical cosmos of roughly 107 gears, including wheels designed to vary their motion. Each survived differently. Antikythera in a shipwreck. The Byzantine instrument in fragments, stripped of its archaeological context. Al-Biruni's mechanism in a manuscript. The Isfahan astrolabe is a complete machine, and Dante's Astrarium through the construction manual of a machine that disappeared. No single object closes the entire gap, but the road to the medieval clock tower may never have disappeared at all.